How's it, everyone? Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. Welcome back to OpenCourt. So today I have a special guest here. This is my former student, Kim, and I put out a community post asking you guys to ask me as many questions as you guys wanted. So on today's video, she's going to be reading those questions and I'm going to be answering them for you guys. So thank you for all of your questions, by the way. I hope this video is helpful. Kim?
This first question is from 11 Sweet Spot 11. How about what your ideal racket/string setup looks like? As in, if you could wave a magic wand and get the balance, weight, string, pattern, string properties, grip, shape you prefer, what would it look like?
Okay, so thank you, Rameez. So this question is from Rameez over at Sweet Spot. He and I collaborated on a Solinco hybrid review. So check out his channel. I'll leave his link down in the description. So basically, Rameez, you're asking me if I could build my own racket, what would it be? I've thought about this a lot, and my dream racket honestly would be like a 98 square inch speed. So I would prefer a 98 square inch, 22 millimeter straight beam, 18 by 19 string pattern, static weight around 320, which is pretty hefty. I like something with some weight, but my balance point would be somewhere around 305 because I like that head lightness so I can get it over my head. And as for string pattern, it would definitely have to be a natural gut poly hybrid. I'd go with Babolat VS 125 in the mains and probably Luxilon Alupower 120 in the crosses. That would be my dream setup. So thank you for the question, Rameez.
This next question is from, now how do you say that?
Mustafa Sakal.
Mustafa.
Sorry, we're butchering your name.
This next one is from Mustafa Fasakal 6800. What is your best poly combo? I personally think shape poly main with soft slick cross is ideal.
Okay, so yes, I agree. I like a shaped string in the mains with a slick poly cross. I like Ytex Quadro Twist in the main because it's a very grippy string and it gets tons of spin, and I would put Yonex Polytour Fire or Solinco Outlast in the cross. Both of those are very slick polys and it'll allow the Ytex mains to slide. So that would be an ideal combo. If you're curious, give that a try.
From Ben Q10. Gauge. Okay. From Ben Q10, what gauge do you prefer? Does your preference depend on the string type or racket? What are the pros and cons of different gauges?
Okay, so yes, definitely it depends on the string type. If you're using a softer multi-filament or natural gut, I would suggest going thicker, but for me, my ideal gauge is 120 millimeter. I like thinner gauges. It gives me more spin, more power, and crucially, it gives me more feel for my touch-oriented games like my slices and drop shots. What was the rest of the question? Oh, the pros and cons of different gauges, right? So the thicker you go, the more control-oriented. It's going to play a little bit deader, but it'll be more durable, maintain tension. The thinner you go, it'll have more spin, power, and feel.
BoJack3827, what's the best full bed round string? What's the slickest round polycross? And not a question, but would love to see you do a bit more collab with Albert the Stringer guy.
Okay, so what's the best full bed round? I mean, Luxilon Alupower is pretty hard to beat, but it does lose tension very, very quickly. Polytour Fire is probably my favorite overall round polyester in a full bed, although Turn a Big Hitter Silver I recently reviewed. That one was also really good as well. And as far as your comment, Albert the Stringer guy, yes, his channel is also in my link, AM Stringing. It's a funny story because he's actually from Oahu as well. He and I, when I played junior team tennis, he was the coach of the opposing team. And then when I became a coach for junior team tennis, I coached against him. And then now we occasionally collaborate together on our YouTube channel. So he's the Prince guy. He's the only Prince distributor in Hawaii. So I get all of my Prince stuff from him. So yeah, check out Albert over at AM Stringing.
From Ali.Gator, hello, I am hesitating among Eco Rough, RPM Blast, and Black Code 4S. What are the differences among these three? I am more of a baseliner seeking spin, and I like to hit the ball so it falls just inside the baseline.
Okay, good question. So thank you for telling me what kind of player you are, because without that, I wouldn't be able to answer that question. Eco Rough is a very, very springy string. compared to RPM Blast and 4S. 4S is my favorite out of those three. It gives a little bit more response and feel. It has great spin, great tension maintenance and control. RPM Blast is a little bit too dead for me, but if you like to hit with spin and you like to drop the ball just inside the baseline, I don't know if you prefer crisper or deader strings, but I think out of those three, the RPM Blast is the one that you would go with if you're just looking for the ball to stay inside the lines. Eco Rough would probably not be my pick of those three. 4S is my personal favorite. If you like it on the crisper side, that would be the one I would go with. I hope that helps.
DR27, if you could only use one racket and string setup for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Okay, so great question. It's similar to Rameez's question about what my dream racket would be. String setup would be Babolat VS Natural Gut mains and a Luxlon Alu 120 crosses. That's my favorite string pattern. I'm planning to do a review on that hybrid in the future. As far as what racket, I would probably go with the 2013 Head UTech Graphene Speed Pro. I always go back to that racket for some reason, and I keep gravitating toward it. It gives me great control from my returns. The string pattern is a little bit too tight. I wish it was a little bit more open, but if I could only use one racket out of all the rackets I've tried, that would probably be the one.
So DJ197 asks, of all the rackets you've reviewed, which one surprised you the most and why?
Okay, so I just released my top 5 rackets of 2023, and just about all of them were very pleasant surprises, such as the Diadem Elevate 98 version 3 was a huge surprise. The Yonex E-Zone Tour 98 was a huge surprise. The new Percept 100D was a huge surprise. But the one that I was particularly surprised with the most, and there might be some recency bias with this because it's the most recent racket I reviewed, but it was the 2023 Head Auxetic 2.0 Prestige Pro, because I hated the previous Prestige. That racket was so sluggish and I couldn't get any spin, power, nothing. I was just getting pushed around the court all over the place. But the new one allowed me to dictate the pace, and it had great feel, great acceleration. I could get it over my head on the kick serve. That was the racket that surprised me the most, which is why it was my #1 on my top 5 list of this year. So the new Prestige Pro, I might buy it. I gotta test it again, make sure there's no quality control issues, because it felt so different from the previous one. But that was my biggest surprise that I can remember.
From OatsGoats39, is it hard to meet other young people in Hawaii? How have the fires impacted your ability to play outside safely? Coolest tennis event to come through your area?
Okay, great question. Is it hard to meet other young people in tennis? Are you talking about girls specifically, or just like people in general? Because I'll tell you, it's pretty hard to come by young girl tennis players. But I mean, that's not why I play tennis. But if you're just thinking about meeting other young people to play with, in tennis, the community is so like tight-knit here, and you can go to another random court and there's probably somebody you know there, and then they'll invite you to play. Everyone here is super friendly. Everyone's a tight-knit community. If you've been playing tennis for a long time in Hawaii, chances are you can go to any public court and you'll see somebody you know. So it's not that hard to meet people, honestly. And as far as the fires, yes, thankfully, I live on Oahu. The fires were on the island of Maui, so it didn't affect me here. But from what I heard, the fires were really devastating. So our hearts go out to the people of Maui, and we wish them a swift recovery there. There was a fire here recently near where we usually play, and the fumes would blow down here. But it went away relatively quickly. But yes, the fires can affect definitely the court. It becomes harder to breathe, but thankfully in Oahu we haven't had many problems with fires. But good question, and thank you, and I hope you guys pray for Maui as well.
Coolest tennis event to ever come.
Right, and then the coolest tennis event, Hawaii doesn't, because it's such a small place, it doesn't have very many events. I think it has a Challenger Cup here, which is actually played on these very courts that we're sitting on now, which is, if you don't know what a Challenger event is, it's a level right below the ATP level. But apart from that, yeah, I'm sorry, Hawaii is such a small place. It doesn't really get a lot of professional events or anything like that.
This question is from Koba Evans. I'd appreciate your opinion on the Square X Sharp. Also of your interest is your opinion on a Square X Sharp Pro Tour Hybrid. I'm returning from rotator cuff surgery in a few months and will need spin, softness, comfort, and all the power I can get.
Okay, great question. So thank you, Koba. You sent me this question on my email, so I appreciate you reaching out. Square X Sharp I've never used before, so I can't comment on that. But Square X is one of the softest polys, I think, in my opinion, that Ytex has. And Ytex is known for their soft polys. The Pro Tour Blue, I think, is one of Rameez's favorite polys over at the Sweet Spot channel. And I reviewed the Pro Tour Blue as well, and it's a very soft string. If you're looking for something that's arm friendly, the Pro Tour Blue will be a good option as a full bed. But I'm sorry, I cannot comment on the Square X Sharp, but the Square X is pretty soft. So if you want to use a Square X regular version plus the Pro Tour in a hybrid, I think that can probably alleviate some of the pain in your arm. So give that a try and drop the tension, go sub 50 to protect your arm, because your health is more important than your tennis, honestly.
User-Henwu, how about the pros and cons of leather grip and the comparison between each brand leather grips, like weight, thickness, etc.?
Okay, great question. So leather grips, I've used a few of the brands and I haven't noticed too big of a difference. Honestly, I'm not too much of a fan of leather grips because it actually makes the grip a little bit thicker. One of the thinnest leather grips that I've ever used was the one strictly from Tennis Warehouse. Tennis Warehouse had their own leather grip, and that one was one of the thinner ones. But as far as the pros and cons go, a lot of pros like leather grips because it sits flush against the handle, so you can really feel the bevels. The bevels are the ridges on the handles, so when you change grips, you know exactly where you're holding the racket, so you can switch from Eastern, semi-Western, Continental very easily. And that's why a lot of people like leather grips. It also adds a little bit more weight to the handle to give it a little bit more of a headlight balance, a little bit whippier, a little bit more maneuverable. And honestly, that's probably the biggest pro for me, but it makes it also very, very stiff. And I was actually using a leather grip racket earlier today, and I have blisters on my hand. So that's the biggest con, I think, would be it makes it a little bit thicker, and it also really hurts your hand over long periods of time. I was using an overgrip over it, but even then it hurt my hand a lot. So leather grips, I know Fairway makes a pretty popular leather grip, but I'm sorry, I can't comment on any other brands because I'm not personally a fan of leather grips. Pear J Reed.
Right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
right? Okay. From Pear J Reed 2309, if your racket has a leather grip from factory, then you remove it and change it with a regular replacement grip. Do you change the balance of the racket?
Right, so I think I just answered this on the previous question, but yes, if you take off the leather factory grip and you replace it with the replacement synthetic grip, the synthetic grip is lighter than the leather grip, so yes, you will change the balance point. It's going to shift slightly more towards the head because you're taking weight away from the handle. So it's not going to affect the swing weight that much, but it will make it a little bit more head heavy. So if you want to switch to a synthetic grip, maybe open up the butt cap under the racket and add some tungsten putty, or just wrap some leather or lead tape around the base of the handle to kind of counterbalance the weight you're taking away from the handle.
Okay. From Matthew D. Marino 3629, what is your favorite tennis ball? What is your favorite gamma string? And I heard Gosen and Tawalson make most of their strings for the other brand. Do you have any insight on this?
Okay, so thank you, Matthew. You asked me 3 questions, so I just made it shorter and condensed it for brevity. But what is my favorite tennis ball? That's a good question. I really like the Wilson US Open Championship ball, but I think most people know about that one. I do want to call attention to my favorite ball that I tried when I was living in Japan, which is the Dunlop Srixon HD. That ball really lasts a long time. I could play a full 2 out of 3 set match with that and it will barely lose any pressure. The downside though is that it's a little bit on the heavy side, so when you're hitting with it at the beginning, it feels like your serves are going a little bit slower with that ball, but it holds pressure very well. So that's probably my favorite ball besides the Wilson US Open ball. As far as my favorite gamma string goes, I'm not really a huge gamma guy. Gamma is mostly known for their synthetic gut strings, and I use mostly poly. But one that I was surprised with that I tried last year was the Gamma TNT, I think it was called the Ocho RX or something. It was an octagonal synthetic gut, which is, it's pretty rare to see a shaped synthetic gut string, but I tried that because I heard it gets great spin, and it did. Unfortunately, just like other synthetic guts, it doesn't really snap back that much. But I know Gamma TNT, Gamma Livewire, Gamma Professional are all very popular. Check out Harry over at Tennis Spin. He's a huge Gamma advocate. He has a lot of Gamma reviews. And as far as the Gamma and Tualsin making other, Gosen and Tualsin making other strings, again, check out Harry. He owns a tennis shop over in California, and he has more insight on these, the backstory of the manufacturing of the strings. I do know that Tualsin manufactures all the Gamma strings. So if you see Gamma string on a shelf here in the US, they were made by Tualsin in Japan. Tualsin is a very good brand. I've reviewed a couple of their strings. They have strings on the shelves in Japan. So I know Tualsin makes Gamma. I don't know if Gosen makes all the other ones. But it does make sense that some brands would outsource their manufacturing to cut down on costs. But check out Harry over at Tennis Spin. Maybe he can give you a little bit more insight into that.
And that was the last question.
Okay, thank you guys for all of your questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Send me as many questions as you guys want. I try to respond to as many of the comments as I can if it's a question. But I definitely want to interact with you guys more in the future, and I want to do more of these Q&A videos. So thank you for your questions. Thank you, Kim, for helping me out. And as always, if you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you on an open court. What is the matter with you? You laughing at my tagline?
Overhead smash the